They say big things come in small packages. Well, that's what Lime Rock Park is all about. It's a small package, but every driver in the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge today is hoping for big things. Lime Rock Park, this is race number 2 of the weekend for VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. 2 different classes of cars. We will get to the fight here in just a second, but let's talk about Lime Rock Park. The park as it's known, Northwest Connecticut, and just outside the city of Lakeville. This racetrack has been in operation continuously since 1957, actually on the National Historic Registry of Historic Places. And what a great racetrack it is. It has everything. Turn 1 and 2, they call it Big Bend, through the left-hander. Yes, the left-hander. There's only one on this racetrack. The uphill always grabs your attention. And then West Bend and through the downhill. You've completed a lap. This is race number 2 of the weekend. Take you back to race number 1. Show you how we got here. Bijoy Garg on the pole, second in the championship, but he wants to close the lead down to his nearest competitor, who happens to be right behind him. But didn't take long for the action to start here at the start. Patrick Wilmot, a problem under braking in his 88 BMW became a problem for Tim Probert, and also Sebastian Carrazzo aboard the 27. Those 2 cars got the brunt of the problem for Wilmot. They were out early. That was a full course yellow. Then Wilmot, a problem later in the race. You see that smoke out of the center of the BMW, parked it at the uphill. And then a problem here. Courtney Crone in the 99, the Gainesco Red Dragon in contact with Brian Thenis in the 77. That cuts down the left rear tire. She'll have to go to the pits. Then the 54 with an issue. That's not the big issue though for the 54 as he gets back on track and heads down to Big Bend, drops the left side tire there. That would end the day for Kunsley. Then the 3 through the uphill, looking for the victory, and indeed takes it. That is a win for Bijoy Garg, his 3rd on the season, and John Capestro de Betz for Autotechnic. That's a sweep of the podium in GSX for that team. 1, 2, and 3. Brian Till and Jeremy Shaw with you. Jeremy, welcome in, my friend.
Well, what a way for Autotech Racing to announce its presence in this championship with a 1, 2, 3 in the GSX class. Just a quick note from this morning's race. Dan Goldberg finished in 2nd, but his tyres were really struggling towards the end. During qualifying, he'd actually had a spin, flat spotted those tyres. If he had changed the tyre before the start of this morning's race, he'd have had to go to the back of the field and drew a drive-through penalty. He elected to take the gamble, start on those well-worn tyres, and hopefully they would get to the end. They did just. I mean, he was down to the cords. He's now got a fresh set of tyres. He's going to start 2nd. Let's see what he can do. Once again, it'll be Bijoy Garg on pole position with John Capestro de Betz on pole position in GSX.
Here we go. Garg, he learned his lesson. One of his weak spots earlier in the season was starts, and he has been spectacular on both of them today. The big jump there at the start leads down into turn 1 over Dan Goldberg. Goldberg just behind in that light gray 73. It's a Ligier chassis in the hands of Garg, a Duquesne in the hands of Dan Goldberg, and then you go to the GSX category where BMWs dominate up front right now. That Autotechnic squad picking up where they finished race number 1, 1, 2, 3, Jeremy.
Yes, indeed. John Capestro de Betz lead from Jake Walker, the youngster in 2nd position. Stephen Cugliari's just got past Francis Seldorf at the start. Francis Seldorf is going for the championship lead. He's tied on points with Sebastian Carrazzo coming into this race with his 4th place finish this morning. He lost a position at the start to Stephen Cugliari.
45-minute sprint races in the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. No driver change, no teammate. Get it done. But this racetrack, Jeremy, one left-hand corner. The rest of them are rights. You've got to take care of the tires. You alluded to it when you were talking about Dan Goldberg as we came down for the start. How difficult is it? We're kind of in the heat of the day. The sun's been shining brightly all day long. That track temperature is up a little bit, and you got to wonder, what do you need to do to take care of these Michelin tires?
Well, yeah, you're right. And here is the championship leader, the erstwhile championship leader in GSX. That's Sebastian Carrazzo. You might remember he was involved in an accident this morning, and that Kelly Moss team, they were able to get the car out to start this race. But I think the damage was so extensive, really just going to park it. Start it and park it, just pick up the championship points and minimize the points loss. So really disappointed for Sebastian Carrazzo. That crash this morning, none of his making whatsoever. He was just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. But that car too badly damaged to race properly this afternoon.
Oh, that is disappointing, obviously, for himself and the team. Not disappointing for the fourth car in shot, the yellow BMW with the white hood. That is Francis Seldorf. With the problems that Carrazzo had this morning and the finish that Seldorf had, he finished fourth. They were in a tie for the championship when the green flag fell for this race, and this is going to be big points gain if Seldorf can keep it on the track for the 45 minutes, regardless of where he finishes.
That's exactly right, and that's that's sort of kind of foremost in his mind. I mean, foremost in his mind coming into the weekend was getting his first win, but that looks unlikely at this stage because those Auto Technic Racing BMWs are fast. So he's settling into fourth position now as Francis Seldorf. He came oh so close to winning a couple of weeks ago at Canadian Tire Motorsport. Wasn't able to make it happen there, but look, it's consistency that wins championships. And looking at the bigger picture, that for Francis Seldorf, even though he has a lot of fans and supporters and family here this weekend, because he's from Boston, Massachusetts, he'll be happy to come away with the championship lead if he can't win the race.
The championship closed down in the P3 category with Bijoy Garg winning the first round this weekend, and that was his third win of the season. Dan Goldberg, running in second, has 3 as well. They are only split by 20 points right now, Jeremy. Garg trailing Goldberg by 20 markers. But if you were to end the race right now, and I know we've got a long way to go, 350 points to win, 320 for second, Bijoy Garg would take over the championship points lead.
That's exactly right, yes. He came in to the weekend with a 50-point deficit. There's a 30-point differential between first and second, 350 for the win and 320 for second position. So if he can get 2 wins here, that'll be good enough to take the championship lead. Boy, he's taken off on a mission here in this Junior 3 Racing Ligier, car number 3. He's already set the fastest lap of the race and looking to extend that margin lap on lap.
Well, at this racetrack, if you've got a good car underneath you, it can be like magic, but you're also tempted to use it up, and you've got to wonder a little bit. Bijoy Garg obviously has a good car underneath him, but how much tire is he using? And for Dan Goldberg, is he just saying, yeah, go right ahead, run away a little bit, because you're going to come back to me in just a little while? I mean, that's the challenge as you learn and progress through the ladders of racing, right? Is how much car do I use now to have some later that I can do battle with?
Well, that's what I'd be hoping, certainly, but he has just absolutely put the hammer down. 49.715 last time around for Bijoy Garg. He is absolutely flying. That is considerably faster than he managed this morning. So a new lap record again last time around for number 3 car. Comes across the line now, 50.0 that time. But he's still extending his lead already. 3 seconds clear of Dan Goldberg, who did start on a like Bijoy on a fresh set of Michelin tires.
Well, this is where it can all change. You can extend your lead, or it can all go wrong. On the 7th lap, they've already caught GSX traffic, and now you're going to have to work through this slower class of cars on a very, very tight racetrack. You need to be a little bit patient, but at the same point in time, if you're Dan Goldberg, you can't let Garg make too much time by working his way through a little bit more aggressively.
That's right, and for Dan Goldberg, I think he's a little bit surprised to see how quickly that number 3 car's disappeared at the front, and he gets a bit of traffic coming out of the diving turn as well. That'll cost Dan Goldberg valuable momentum coming onto the front straightaway. Yeah, quick those GSX cars on the straight line, by the way. They motor. When they get to the braking area, the greater downforce of the LP3 car allows it to surge on ahead and then pull away. Much more speed through the corners as well. But that gap already out to over 3 seconds from first to second.
It's also challenging for the P3 contenders when they get into that traffic. No anti-lock braking system on the P3 machinery. The GT4-based GSX cars do have anti-lock brakes, so throwing it in late if you're in a prototype can be a challenge because the GSX cars, their brake zone is very, very short.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
You're not wrong. But look at the gap that he's pulled out. He's extended it again by half a second on this last lap for Joy Going, even working his way through the traffic. 50.8 last time around for the race leader Joy Garg. Celebrated his 21st birthday last weekend. They're doing so in style here.
This prototype traffic also helps the GSX contenders. Patrick Wilmot in the silver and blue BMW that slips by. You saw him with the problem at the start in race number 1, and then we also saw him have a problem later in the race, a mechanical issue that had them not finishing. That car now running strong, but used some of that prototype traffic as Goldberg was working through to split himself from Ben Barletta aboard the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW a little bit. That's given him a little bit of breathing room, and now he's going to see if he can't get Goldberg to hold up the BMW just in front of Francis Seldorf and see if he can close up on his competitor just a little bit, as now Goldberg goes to work on that BMW, the 95.
Yeah, around the outside he goes, and Francis Seldorf here just trying his best to hang on to those 3 Auto Technic cars, but same work. Stephen Cugliari in that 3rd position in the car number 25. What a debut it has been for him this weekend, not only in this championship, but also in any sort of a GT4 car. He's driven BMWs, a lot of BMWs in the past few years, including the M240IR in SRO competition, but he didn't race, this is his first race of this season. First time he's been to Lime Rock since he attended, I think, the Skip Barber School a dozen years or so ago. And he's doing a really, really fine job in that 3rd position in GSX in kind of a 25.
Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw with you. VP Racing Sports Car Challenge from Lime Rock Park. Round 8 of the season, the 4th weekend of racing, but the 8th race. And we talk about VP Racing Sports Car Challenge, what a great learning curve it is for these drivers and these teams. But Jeremy, I don't mean just learning to drive these cars. They've driven perhaps these cars in other series that are single make, but when you get into multi-class racing, it becomes very different, especially with a faster class. If you're in the faster class, you need to learn how to work traffic to your advantage, and if you're in the slower class, you need to figure out how to use that faster traffic to help you eliminate lost lap time. It's important to learn how to not only pass people, but how to be passed.
Yeah, and not lose time. You're absolutely right. That is one of the keys to success in endurance racing, and that's why this VP Racing Sports Car Challenge is proving to be so popular and so successful, because it does allow these drivers, they're only 45-minute races, but they've got to be concerned not only with their own race, but also being passed by the much faster LMP3 cars.
Problem on the racetrack, the 54 off, and I'm not sure where that is. I think it's in turn 1. So the 54 there, and we saw Adrian Kunzel with some problems earlier in race number 1. You can actually see the black bodywork on the side of that car as he sits mired in the tire wall. That's damage that was repaired from race number 1.
Yeah, that MLT Motorsports team has been busy during the day.
Whoops,
just locked up the brakes, it looks like, and carried too much speed into the corner. Exit stage left, and that we stopped it before the tire barriers. That's good news. That's surprising because it's still pretty damp, I think, on the grass down there. But no contact. But that is going to bring out a full course caution.
It seems that he can't get the engine refired. I've not seen any exhaust out of the back of the 54, telling me that, yeah, if he's lost fire, then they're going to have to go get him. There it is. He's got it restarted now, and this is the way it always works for race control, right? You call full course yellow, and now all of a sudden the problem moves and back underway. But too late to pull it in now, so the 54 of Kunzel, he'll try to get that car back sorted, and on the racetrack, they'll get the field gathered up, and we'll be back to racing.
Yes, we will. We can all catch our breath because there hasn't been much of a gap, has there, since that thrilling FCP Euro Northeast Grand Prix presented by Liquid Moly, the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship race was an absolute thriller, and it ended only about 3 minutes ago, it seems like to me. We've had just a lot of excitement here this weekend, and more to come with another race later on this evening. But for Adrian Kunzel, yeah, it's been a difficult day. A mistake earlier on, a mistake now again. This time he hasn't done any damage to the car. That's the good news. But he's a guy who's just in his first season of proper racing, professional racing. Done some club races in the past, but not a lot. He's from New York, based in New York City, or he's originally from the UK, from Hampshire, the UK, Denmead in Hampshire. And he's got that car on the way again. He's lost a lap or two, but no harm, no foul.
Yeah, I'll get it back underway. And here's the thing, when you get into one of these prototypes without anti-lock brakes on them, sometimes it's hard to read the front brake bias. You're not in an open wheel car where you can see the tire begin to slow down or literally lock up, Jeremy. So trying to feel the front end, looks like he got into turn one, locked the right front first. And when that happens, with only one tire turning, you're not going to be able to get the car to change direction. That's what happened. He went off the grass, and then I saw the front wheels locked all the way until the car stopped just before making contact with the wall. So, it's just coming to grips, literally, with a different style race car that you haven't spent a lot of time in. And then we saw the same thing with getting it refired, getting it in gear, and getting it out of harm's way. So you learn as you go.
You do, and the critical thing there is, as you said, he stopped before the tyre wall, i.e. he didn't hit the tyre wall. That's the really good news for him, and of course that team, because they've had quite a lot of damage to repair during the midday hours. It's pretty warm here at Lime Rock Park, so that team will be happy to see that car still running at the finish.
Well, that MLT team obviously knows how to field winning cars in P3 competition. We saw them last year in competition in IMSA with LMP3 based cars, and certainly put those cars up front. So he's got a good team behind him, obviously making the repairs to get it back out there, but also good setup book on how to make these cars run well, and that's what you want. You want to end up with a team that can help you be better in the craft that you're pursuing.
That's exactly right. Dr. Mike Thompson's team winning the prototype championship, the Prototype Challenge Championship, the forerunner of this series now, with Dakota Dickerson a couple of years ago.
Back under green, Bijoy Garg leapt away from the field, and Dan Goldberg on the initial start. What can he do now? Goldberg has a little better understanding of the car that's underneath him. You talked about how he ran race number one today on tires that were well worn, a bit flat spotted. Perhaps, Jeremy, in these opening laps, he was just trying to get a feel for what the car was like when it wasn't trying to shake itself to death, flat spots and corded tires. Will we see that 73 Duquesne come to life in the hands of Dan Goldberg? When you deal with VP Racing Sports Car Challenge, even though they're two classes, they don't do a wave by on restarts, Jeremy. So the rest of that P3 field, Brian Thenis there aboard the red, white, and blue number 77, Courtney Crone in the 99. They were kind of mired back in the field of the GSX cars. They're going to have to work their way through here on this restart.
That's exactly right, and good news there for Brian Thenis. He was able to get past before the downhill turn. Courtney Crone held up behind, and here now is Denny Dupont trying to get a run in that number 18 car. Courtney Crone wisely defends to the inside line into Big Ben to make sure that blue and white Duquesne stays behind her.
Interesting to watch the two different chassis in play here in the P3 category. Courtney Crone, Denny Dupont just behind her, both in Duquesne chassis. The Ligier of Brian Thenis just in front of Crone, the 77, and the leader, Bijoy Garg, in a Ligier as well. And Jeremy, we've seen these cars with different performance envelopes, so to speak, over the last couple of years in Prototype Challenge and even in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship when the LMP3 cars run there. They have a different kind of performance curve, and I kind of look at the Ligier and go, I'm not saying this because I watched Bijoy Garg win in it earlier today. I'm saying it because it seems more suited to a racetrack like Lime Rock Park than perhaps the Duquesne.
Yeah, it's cool, but yeah, possibly so. Certainly, we've seen in the past that different tracks seem to suit either the Ligier or the Duquesne. But certainly, they've both been working well here, and the grid, interestingly, at the start of the race, there was a Ligier and Duquesne on each of the rows of the grid. Only 6 cars, but 3 of each. And one each on each of the rows of the grid. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah, Dan Goldberg, he's settled into a good pace now. He's just done his best lap last time around. And he's settling about a second behind Joy Gard. So Gard certainly hasn't pulled out as much yet as he did at the beginning of the race. Meanwhile, a little bit farther back, Frank Depew, he's got a great battle going on with Rob Ecklin right behind him in the Aston Martin. It's Chevrolet ahead of Aston Martin. And Angus Rogers also hanging on there as well in that KFW Porsche. Right, 1, 2, 3, very, very close.
09 of Rob Ecklin, his Aston Martin from Automatic Racing flashes through the downhill. And just behind him, Rogers aboard the Porsche, the number 5. And Ecklin looking to the inside of Frank Depew in the 72 Camaro. Rebel Rock Racing down through Big Bend. Camaro, Aston Martin, Porsche. Again, in the IMSA paddock, you'll find all the sports cars you want to drive. And this is a good little battle. We saw Ecklin and Depew in this same kind of fight in race number 1 earlier today.
Yeah, that's right. They've been battling all day long, haven't they? And having a huge amount of fun. Big smiles from these guys. Rob Ecklin, he's making his debut in the championship, in this championship this weekend for Automatic Racing. Automatic Racing run by David Russell. Spent a lot of time here at Lime Rock Park as an instructor for Skip Barber Racing over the years. And Rob Ecklin has been with David Russell now for, it's well over a dozen years, I think, isn't it? Long partnership.
Yeah.
Rob Ecklin and Automatic Racing.
Dave Russell, one of those characters in the paddock, and you said a lot of experience at this racetrack, both driving on it, teaching on it. The age-old saying of, you know where all the skeletons are buried, Dave Russell probably does here at Lime Rock Park. As this battle continues, Depew doing a great job of just holding station, hitting his marks, putting in the laps, and saying, if you're going to get by me, you're going to have to find a way by, because I'm not going to give it to you.
That is right. And of course, this is also the battle for a second position in the bronze category of drivers. There's driver rating system in sports car racing worldwide these days. In this championship, you can't be more than I don't think even gold rated drivers are allowed. It's just silver and bronze rated drivers. But there's a separate categorization for bronze rated drivers. And this morning, with the win in the category, Vin Barletta, driving car number 96, the second of the Turner Motorsport BMWs, took the win in bronze and also the championship lead.
The big thing that battle is going to have to deal with right now, that we were just watching, is the leaders now coming through. Bijoy Garg has caught up to that trio of cars through the left-hander. As a good battle here. Seldorf trying to move forward, get past Cugliari. It's the battle for third. We talked about that Auto Technic squad, how strong they are, and really for Cugliari and Jake Walker, having a driver like John Capestro de Betz work with them and kind of help direct this team a little bit via coaching and also helping set up the cars here is just a huge, huge benefit in the learning curve for those two drivers.
Yeah, isn't it just? And Buddy Rice under that tent as well, I think, this weekend. He's a manager of Jake Walker. He's been coaching him through the junior ranks. He's also racing this season in Lamborghinis, is Jake, just a youngster from Pennsylvania. And a really talented young man who's coming up through the sport in a somewhat unconventional fashion, but he's clearly showing his speed. And just 17 years of age, a big future ahead of him. That's Jake Walker running second at the moment in GSX.
IMSA VP Racing Sports Car Challenge from Lime Rock Park. Bijoy Garg continues to lead, as he has since the drop of the green flag from the pole position. John Capestro de Betz, JCD out in front. This is one of the more compelling battles in the GSX class, and it is for third in that category. as the 25 of Cugliari sweeps through, and Francis Seldorf right there with him. Seldorf in that bright yellow Turner Motorsports BMW wants by, but also coming up through, other cars wanting by, the leaders, the overall leaders, and that is Bijoy Garg and now Dan Goldberg right there closing down on the rear wing. This traffic is helping Goldberg close down on Garg in front aboard the number 3.
It certainly is, and this is because it costs Garg some time going through the uphill chicane there as well. He's going to get past, I think, before West Bend, past those 2 BMWs. I think probably, he's only get past one of them. But this is fascinating as they work their way through the traffic. Meanwhile, just not too far back down the road, Brian Thenis has been caught by Courtney Crone and Denny Dupont. So we've got 2 battles on here in LMP3, about 10 seconds apart.
I think that traffic worked in favor of Dan Goldberg that time. He was able to get a better run through the downhill and stay in contact with Garg. Garg has probably the harder challenge, I would think, Jeremy. He's the first car that goes through the traffic. You hope that traffic is paying attention and sees one prototype and expects another one as well. As right there, a great job of sliding out of the way. That was Jake Walker going, nope, you guys come on through. I don't want any part of this.
Yeah, dead right. Because yeah, he's going to let those faster cars go past him and not lose any time while doing so. But Dan Goldberg certainly now, you've got the bit between his teeth, and he's going to try and close that gap to Bijoy Garg, or at least keep him under pressure here. Got a good run off the downhill turn, but Garg, the gap between those two, it's less than a second right now, less than half a second, in fact, as they cross the line. And Bijoy Garg here, he's, for the first time today, really coming under pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, traffic coming into play there. One more time, Dan Goldberg seemed to have the better of it coming down into the downhill. He did have to tighten his hands a little bit out towards the exit. That's going to affect his run off the corner a little bit, but Garg had to check up as they went through the downhill, didn't get the run that he wanted, and that's allowed Dan Goldberg to stay in contention aboard the 73 through West Bend. Down through the downhill, that downforce on these LMP3 machines really working to get them through there at speed. Now, cleaner racetrack out in front. The next bit of traffic is just now going on to the Paul Newman Straight. So if Bijoy Garg has a better car underneath him, now's the time to show it. Pull out a little bit more of a gap. Had about 7/10 of a second at the line the last time by. What will he have the next time by? Look at this fight down into turn 1. Denny Dupont side by side with Brian Thenis. A little bit of contact there, and Dupont gets the worst of it.
He does, because as they came across the line, there were pretty much 3 cars side by side, I think, because Courtney Crone has got past, has got past Brian Thenis, and Denny Dupont was riding that mix. So here they come.
Look at this.
Across the line. It's down to the inside. Oops. Goes Courtney Crone to make that pass on Brian Thenis. And Denny Dupont was kind of in the wrong place there on the outside line, and loses a bit of ground at the same time.
Well, I mean, it was deja vu all over again for the 99 and the 77. That's exactly what we saw in race 1, except Thenis closed the door, made that contact with the left rear of Courtney Crone, and that got him a penalty, and it sent her to pit lane as well with a damaged race car. He was not about to turn in on her this time, and instead stayed out, and that's when the contact happened with Dupont. He was like, no, I'm not making that mistake again. I'm not going to get called on that one. But yeah, he had the car to the outside, and then contact there. Things have settled down a little bit, but again, in multi-class racing, this short lap and the laps in the 50-second range, mid-50s, 55, 56 for the GSX cars. Traffic is going to be a factor all day long. We saw it, Jeremy. It took 6 laps for the prototypes to get into traffic. And remember, GSX cars not obligated to get out of the way, especially if they're in a battle amongst themselves. So you got to find a way through. You got to find it cleanly and work your way through. Just because you're a faster class does not give you carte blanche to push your way through.
through Denny Dupont there in that Mjolnir Motorsports blue and white. Duquesne, kind of at 18, running in the 5th position, making his debut in LMP3 car this weekend. He was also going to be driving in the TCR race coming up, the Michelin Pilot Challenge race, which comes up right after this. Just a few minutes rest before he hops into an Audi. They'll probably be doing the 2nd stint in the Audi, so have a little bit of a breather. Meanwhile, this battle continues for 3rd position in GSX. Stephen Cugliari has it. Francis Seldorf wants it.
VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. Thanks for riding along with us. Brian Hill and Jeremy Shaw at Lime Rock Park. The Bull Ring, operation since 1957. So much history at this racetrack, Jeremy. Drivers looking to make their own history today as Joy Garg is looking to take over the championship in P3. We're going to see championship changes in GSX as well.
Yeah, we are certainly, because there's going to be a change in the lead. Francis Seldorf was tied in points with Sebastian Carrazzo, and he's going to make quite a break now in terms of its championship points lead. He's going to extend that lead quite substantially after this race. There's another mistake there for Adrian Kunzel. Yep. Yeah, as he works his way through some of the GSX cars. Oops. Easy mistake to make. He starts to look up around the outside, says, hey, I'm going to go up here, and then gets in there and realizes that's not where the grip is. And you've already started to turn the car on the brakes a little bit, and around it goes. Yeah, as quickly as you like, around it goes, and he's got all that work to do again now. He's now going to come under, that's the race leader right behind him, Joy Garg, and as we can see, again, Dan Goldberg, as they work their way through some more GSX traffic on the last couple of laps, Goldberg has closed in again. He's going to see now if he can pressure Joy Garg into a mistake.
Great job there by Kunzel. Out of the way, Garg is through. What about Goldberg? He's through as well, and this is a better Duquesne chassis in the hands of Dan Goldberg out of that JDC Motorsports stable. The car he had this morning, and perhaps it's not the better car, it's the better Michelin tire, like you said, Jeremy, after he damaged the ones that he had to use in race number 1 in qualifying.
Boy, I mean, those tires were ugly at the end of the race. I saw that, I mean, literally down to the cords, and it wouldn't have gone much longer. I think he just had his fingers crossed in the closing stages, just trying to hold on to 2nd position, which he did, good for his championship aspirations. But boy, it was a few sketchy moments, I think.
Oh, this is going to be frustrating. This is going to be frustrating from Garg. He got held up big time there by the 95. No fault at all of Francis Seldorf. I mean, he's in battle on his own with Cugliari there in front of him, but that's going to stack him up a little bit. The question is, can Dan Goldberg do anything with it? Let's see what the gap was. It was 1.9 seconds at the line the last time by. Now Goldberg held up a little bit through the downhill. That's not the run he wanted. This traffic gives and takes.
There you go. Traffic giveth and the traffic taketh away. Absolutely right. And that certainly cost Dan Goldberg a fair bit of momentum there. That gap now out again to 1.7 seconds. It's been toing and froing as they work their way through the traffic. It's going to go around the outside of the that's the class leading car. I think, no, 2nd place car. That is Jake Walker running in 2nd position. JCD, John Capestri Defense, is down the road by about 9 seconds already. But Dan Goldberg, yeah, has lost a bit of time there. There's going to be an awful lot of time to make up in the closing, 14 minutes this race.
Multi-class racing and VP Racing Sports Car Challenge from Lime Rock Park. P3 and GSX, that's the LMP3 based prototypes and GT4 based GT cars in action. And if you just kind of glanced up at the screen, you might think it's GTP cars and GTD cars, because it's that same kind of split and the time differential between their lap times. And that's the great thing about this series. We've said it before, teams and drivers have a chance to learn multi-class racing as they're learning how to race their different types of platforms. Teams, engineers, mechanics, all of it. That's the ladder system in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in the IMSA paddock.
Yeah, and a very effective ladder system it is too for teams as well as drivers. Anybody involved in the sport, mechanics, engineers, work their way from one level to the next. Someone like Bejoy Garg, who leads this race, he's doing a lot of racing on a couple of different continents. He's also racing in Europe in sports cars as well. He's also doing the USF Pro Championships open wheel ladder over here as in addition. So he's getting lots and lots of miles and improving all the time.
Well, that Junior 3 stable, I mean, what a great product they put out. And I think you talk about the number of series that Garg is running in right now. Every one of those, even though the cars may be different than this LMP3-based P3 car, it's racing experience. And to me, what I saw at the beginning of the season in this series was the mistakes that were made because of experience. He's gained more and more, and the results, to me, are evident.
Exactly right. I mean, just look at his starts a couple of weeks ago only at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. He was on the pole position with Joy Garg with two lackadaisical starts, and Dan Goldberg took advantage of both of them to lead the race there, and they ended up. Also, Jonathan Wooldridge, who isn't here this weekend, he won one of the races. Dan Goldberg won the other, and Bejoy Garg had to settle for two second-place finishes, having had what was clearly the fastest car all weekend. Well, how quickly has he learned? Answer, very quickly, because in both the races, this morning and this afternoon, once there's a hit to the green flag, he's out of here.
Absolutely, and we saw some mistakes early in the season that we don't see there. I mean, mistakes behind the wheel, not just with the starts, but we don't see them here in these last couple of races. And to me, that's a driver that's gaining experience. But I mean, hey, you can continue to drive and make the same mistake over and over again, but that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing him take that experience and put it to good use.
Yes, exactly right, and that's the key to this business. I mean, it's all about experience. Seat time is massively important in terms of improving a game, and but at the same time, you've got to analyze everything that's happened. If you've made a mistake, why did I make a mistake? Okay, if I made a mistake, I know what it was. Now I've got to make sure I don't do it again. It's all that part of that steep learning curve.
And that's why you become a driver like this, John Capestro DeBetz, who is applied his trade and really gotten noticed over the last couple of seasons, kind of a super sub a couple of years ago, and it opened many people's eyes, an instructor, a coach, a race car driver, and now getting more and more opportunities, as he should, because he's put his time in, and during that time, he's gained that experience, he's learned those lessons, and now he knows how to apply the trade. And a problem there in the uphill, there was a prototype involved. It's one of the Autotechnic machines. It is the 25 of Cugliari. Seldorf in there. Good job by Cugliari to get that car out of the way. And that's the 77. Looking for a place to tuck that Ligier, because damage to the left front. Good job of keeping it off the guardrail. And if he can just get it down a little bit further, there's a cut that perhaps Brian can get it through and get it out of harm's way, keep us from having to go full course caution.
Yeah, he's done the best he can to get that car out of the way. He was having a good battle with the number 18 car. Let's see if we can get there's a bit of debris. That's looks like the inner fender from the car.
Say that was from the GSX BMW that we saw. You don't see inner fenders like that on these prototypes, so don't know exactly what happened, but obviously the faster prototypes trying to work their way through. Well, there you go. So problems of his own, gets restarted. So looks like Brian Thenis had spun there on his own, out to the outside, getting that car restarted. And we saw Jake Walker get through there, but kind of a moving target for Cugliari as he came through there, not knowing exactly where the prototype was going to be, thinking he had cleared it, and he obviously, Jeremy, had not. Contact left front to right rear.
Yeah, I mean, visibility out of the side of these cars is not great, certainly, but you can't see. You can't just nail it and hope there's nobody there.
If you don't know, you don't go.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's why the corner marshals are there, and there's corner marshals on the outside of the racetrack at that point, and all you can really do, and on the inside, all you got to do is look around for them to give you the signal that it's okay to rejoin, it's safe to rejoin, and that wasn't the case quite clearly for Brian Thenis. And that's a surprise that somebody of his experience should make that sort of a mistake.
Well, I mean, and I'll put it a little bit on both of them. I mean, Brian pulls away from being stalled there, and when you look up and you see Cugliari come through, you know that car is there. You know that he's trying to get restarted. Giving another foot of room to the right as you come through there probably would have been a good call. Obviously, in hindsight, it was a good call, right? So don't go for the line assuming that prototype hasn't gotten moving a little bit, because when you do, I'm not sure you need that room in a GSX car to get up the hill without losing a lot of speed and momentum. Easy for me to say, because I'm going exactly 0 miles an hour sitting here in this chair, right? And we're asking these drivers to make not just split-second decisions, but decisions in tenths and hundredths of a second.
Yeah, disappointing end of the day for Brian. I mean, what a great job he did yesterday. He was fastest of all in the second practice session, did a really excellent job in this Forte Racing powered by US Electronics Ligier. Lots and lots of experience. He's from Southern California. He's a pilot himself, just an all-around good guy, loves his racing. Had a lot of success. Had a lot of success in Lamborghinis in the Super Trofeo Series. Before that in Formula Atlantic, way back. He's been around the sport a long time and a super enthusiast, and that's a disappointing end to his day. Been a disappointing day all around.
Yeah, you know, you say super good guy. There are not a lot of bad people in these paddocks. That's the other great thing about the IMSA paddock, whether it's Michelin Pilot Challenge, VP Racing SportsCar Challenge, WeatherTech, Porsche, the Mazda series that runs, you name it, Lamborghini. It's full of awesome people, and it's why the fans love it. It's why they flood to the racetracks on the weekends. The paddock exposure, the exposure to the drivers, it's really what makes the IMSA paddock such a special place on the weekend. You can see you can see the frustration on Brian's face right there as he talks to the AMR safety team. That's the other great thing. This safety team on site right there as soon as an incident happens, and you know you've got that feeling as a driver that you're going to be taken care of and looked after, and he'll climb in. There was contact made, so they'll take him and check him out real quick, and he'll head back to his paddock, but good to see him climb out on his own. Impact didn't appear to be that severe, so good news for him, and they'll get that taken care of. And it looks like day done as well for the 25 of Cugliari.
Yeah, stout contact, wasn't it, between those two, and terminal damage to both of them. That's really disappointing. What a great job that Cugliari had done. I mean, yeah, he probably could have given a little bit more room, but look, he's on the throttle, fully committed coming out of that corner. He's got a car right behind him. Yes, he can see he's coming back onto the racetrack, but he's going to assume that...
Assume.
Yeah, well, there you go. that the car's pulling back on the racetrack, has seen him. But again, look, he doesn't have an awful lot of experience, Stephen Cugliari.
Exactly.
He's done some track days and what have you, and hasn't raced at all this season. Was doing a really nice job. He's from Connecticut originally. Lives in New York now, but a really good future he has ahead of him, I think, in this sport, whatever he chooses to do. He's been involved in various business dealings over the last few years, and also got a law degree from Fordham University, so he's a smart guy.
Absolutely, and not throwing a lot of shade on either one of those drivers. Like I said, you're asking them to make decisions in tenths and hundredths of seconds, and that could have gone either way. He could have missed him by a quarter of an inch, and I don't think there was much more than a quarter of an inch of contact that was made. Unfortunately, it was wheel to wheel, and that created an issue. Back, accelerating Matt Garg on it on the restart. And did you see, you can still see it, the rubber coming off of those prototypes. They've got those open wheel wells for aerodynamics and to try to keep them from going over it and when they spin at high rates of speed. And the Michelin rubber that was being pulled up off the racetrack was wild.
That was fascinating, wasn't it? And look at Courtney Crone now coming under pressure from Denny Dupont around the outside.
Oh, and she squeezes him down towards the apex of the right-hander. He backs out. Courtney Crone maintains the position, but that was forceful driving on both of those drivers' part. And for Dupont, he was at, yeah, no, maybe some other time.
Yeah, I think, again, discretion, the better part of valor there for him. I thought he'd made the difficult bit around the outside, but Courtney clearly wasn't about to give up that position without a battle, and she holds on to it now, comes down the hill in that third position still, with Denny Dupont right on her tail.
Crone now with just a little bit of breathing room. Dupont there not letting her get away, and actually in the braking zone, it seems to be where Dupont has the better advantage. He really closes in on the rear wing of that number 99 Red Dragon down into turn one, and now right there, just within a car length, and you've got to be within a car length, if not even less than that. You want to get something done here at Lime Rock.
Yeah, you've got to be really decisive for the pass if you're going to make it. You've got to absolutely commit to the brakes, get right alongside so there's no opportunity for your rival to turn into the corner. You're already there, is what you're trying to do. He wasn't able to do that on that occasion. Courtney now got a good run through the downhill, and she's looking, I think, a big enough lead to be able to hold on to this gap. But just 2 minutes remaining now, so it'll be another couple of laps from here.
Hold on to what you've got, hit your marks. And right now, Courtney Crone, great run going. She's got Dan Goldberg just a few seconds in front of her. She can clearly see that rear wing of the 73 of Dan Goldberg. And for Bijoy Garg, on this restart, he's done what he's done the last couple. He just seems to come to life a little bit earlier and then can lay down those lap times on that start and that restart just a little bit quicker than Goldberg can. Goldberg gets close to him once they get going, but number 3 Ligier just seems to come to life a little bit earlier on. Courtney Crone, that bright red Duquesne, trying to stay in front of Denny Dupont just behind her. Exact same chassis, different setups, I'm sure, different drivers liking different things. She's trying to hold on and come away with a podium finish. She's had a couple this year, third in round 2 at Daytona and in round 5 at CTMP. She just needs to hold on for another 49 seconds or so here at Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, I think it'd be white flag next time around. I don't think they got the white flag this time. Maybe next time around there'll be the white flag for Bijoy Garg, but all sorts of good battling going on behind in the minor positions in GSX as well.
Yeah, I look there at the battle for second, third, and fourth in GSX. It's Walker, Seldorf, and Eklund all right there together. They're having a good go of it, but for Bijoy Garg, man, if you can double up on a weekend at any point in time in this championship, you've done well. Dan Goldberg did it at Daytona and has led the championship all along the way, but now you come into Lime Rock Park, this bull ring, where everything has to go right. The car has to be underneath you, traffic has to work in your favor, a little bit of luck on your side, and if you can walk away from a double weekend here at Lime Rock with not one win, but 2, you have made a statement, and that's exactly what Bijoy Garg trying to do right now. The number 3, junior 3 entry, down through the downhill one last time, looks ahead for the checkered flag. Last lap here at Lime Rock Park. Bijoy Garg takes the win and makes it number 4 on the season. And that, Jeremy, should move him to the top of the charts in the championship. Meanwhile, it's not done and dusted in GSX. John Capestro de Betz has a lead, and a good one. He put on a clinic in race number 1 earlier today and is doing the same thing here. The Auto Technic squad so strong, it won't be a 1, 2, 3. But for John Capestro de Betz, JCD as he is known, he will win again, 2 for 2 at Lime Rock and in VP Racing Sports Car Challenge action.
Yeah, but a little bit behind him, Jake Walker does hold on to second position, just ahead of Francis Seldorf with Rob Ecklin right there in the Aston Martin as well. So a super battle for second, third and fourth. So that was Bijoy Garg answered all the questions there, didn't he? Because the pressure was on there. He had a couple of restarts to deal with. He dealt with them absolutely perfectly. He was able to extend his lead on each occasion. Comes away with a very, very, very well-earned victory in that number 3 car for Junior 3 Racing.
And you look at it, Jeremy, we talked about how close the championship was coming into this afternoon race. The way I see it, Bijoy Garg now has the championship lead, correct?
Indeed so, yeah, by 10 points over his main rival, Daniel Goldberg. Daniel Goldberg will still have a commanding lead in a bronze category, but his focus is on not only on that, but he wants to win the overall championship as well. He's already had 3 race wins on the season as Dan Goldberg. That's to do with second position today, but it's a perfect record in the bronze category. He'll have an absolutely perfect 2,800 points after 8 races with 4 rounds to go this season.
Well, in GSX, while it may have been a perfect weekend for John Capestro, DeBetz, and Autotechnic, it was not a perfect weekend for the championship leader as we came in this weekend. That was Sebastian Carrazzo. We saw his problems in race 1 and then a start and park this afternoon, Jeremy.
Indeed so. So he will lose the championship lead to Francis Seldorf, who came home with another podium finish today. Carrazzo will be credited with 10th position. That's 210 points. So he'll lose. He'll be 140 behind going into the final 4 rounds of this championship. So still a long way to go. He's got plenty of time to make up that lost ground. Disappointing day, certainly for Sebastian Carrazzo, but a good job by the Kelly Moss team to at least make sure he got some more championship points this afternoon.
And it's what it's really all about, right? The long run. You take the points that you can get on any given day, you add them up, and hopefully you've got more than anybody else at the end of the season, and the championship is yours. For Bijoy Garg, can't get any better than what he did here this weekend. 2 for 2 at Lime Rock Park. That makes a statement. VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. Great, great multi-class racing here in the IMSA paddock. 4 more rounds coming up. 2 from Virginia International Raceway, and then we'll end the season at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. We'll see you